to get through in the next hour. Is there any changes or modifications to this list?
Oops, wrong one. Sorry.
Yep, wrong one. Okay, I'm not hearing any changes. So we're going to go with the list as presented, which means first up here is our monthly staff presentation with Stephanie and Jay, Community Wildfire Protection Plan. About 15 minutes or so. We will hold our questions until you get through your presentation, and then we'll comment and ask questions at the end.
Awesome.
Okay, floor is yours.
I think someone's got slides for us. Hopefully.
You want me to do it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you.
So, and I think in your packets, there was a draft plan, for you to look at, and did anybody take a look at it yet? Okay, great. We're still in the draft, stages of the plan, so we're still taking comment. If you guys have comment or if you have thoughts about that, feel free to send them our way. But we just wanted to basically give you an introduction to the plan, the planning process, and kind of our next steps. And then Jay's going to give you some more information about the community engagement. I'll say that we worked really closely with DNR's community resilience coordinator, Jesse Duvall, and he mentioned on a meeting recently that we really knocked it out of the park with the community engagement. He said a lot of times people just check the box to get the plan completed. He's like, we filled the room 3 times over and it was really impressive. So that was really good to hear. He's done a bunch of these. It was nice to hear that from his perspective. So as you know, this was funded through the last Forest Health Grant, the Commission's Forest Health Grant that was part of the Climate Commitment Act. We hired Ross Strategic to keep us on track and to keep the process moving forward. We met really regularly with them. Towards the end, we were meeting every week, just to make sure that we were on task and that we were making all the updates that we needed to and filling in the blanks when needed. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So this is the service area that was selected. We focused on the south part of the county for a couple of reasons. In the Thurston Hazards Mitigation Plan that was developed in 2023, adopted in 24 by Thurston Regional Planning Council. This area was identified as the highest priority for wildfire risk. And for reasons being that, you know, the Bordeaux fire, Scattered Creek fire, these larger fires have happened in this area. There's a lot of prairie area that historically has burned, so it's a little bit more prone for burning. And it's a lot of human structures adjacent to, you know, fuel loads, I guess. So forests and Scotch broom and things like that. So we worked closely with West Thurston Regional Fire Authority, South Thurston Fire and EMS, which is like the Tenino area, Southeast Fire and EMS, which is the Yellow Yelm area, all the way down, and then Bald Hills fire districts. Okay. And the community wildfire protection plans were developed out of the Healthy Forest Act of 2003. And they provided really general structure around those plans. So it's not like there's a really detailed prescription for how the plans are going to be formed, but mainly they needed to be collaborative. So we needed to include many multi-jurisdiction, be a multi-jurisdictional plan. We needed to include a lot of different stakeholders, and then the community input is really key. So that's really where we dug into it. Prioritizing fuel reduction. This is like, where are the fires prone to happen and how can we reduce that risk? And there's a series of projects that are in the back of not in the back. They are towards the back of the plan. They're really the heart of the plan as far as I'm concerned, because it gets to how we can reduce the risk for the community. And then structural ignitability. This is really, you know, the work that Jay's been doing around Wildfire Ready Neighbors and Firewise USA, letting people know what they can do on their own properties and that they have the power to make their properties more resilient in a lot of ways. Okay. So CWPP is this collaborative community project that identifies actions in the community to reduce wildfire resiliency. Next, please. But it is not a legally binding document, and in and of itself, it is not a funding source. So it doesn't provide any sort of funding But it does potentially open up the door down the road for different grants. So there are grants like the Community Wildfire Defense Grant that funds actions that are identified in CWPPs. So it does kind of set us up potentially for something like that. We, as you all know, federal funding is kind of all over the place right now. And so we're hoping that sounds like there is going to be another round of that CWDG funding. We're planning to apply for at least some project funding and see what we get with that. Okay. Next slide. So this was the process, you know, it's kind of like a lot of, I think, planning processes follow these kind of general guidelines, identifying the stakeholders. We had, I think 80 people on our long list of contacts. And Jennifer, you were involved in our stakeholder planning group, but there was consistently 15 to 20 people, I think, that hopped on the core group of those meetings. And we had a couple in person, couple virtual meetings, so we kind of tried to mix it up a little bit. Yeah, anything from like the local ranchers, we had US Fish and Wildlife. I have a slide here with all of the participants, but this is the people that you would expect, the fire districts, DNR, the big landholders. We gathered that community input. We tried to really, you know, include as much diversity as we could to address underserved audiences within this community. And then when we had our list of projects, we went through a prioritization exercise. So we identified them as high, medium, and low priority. Okay, next slide. So these are a little overview of the stakeholder meetings, and Jay, I think I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, so there's a lot of text on the screen. Don't worry about reading all of that. I just kind of wanted to show you a little bit of what we talked about during the stakeholder meetings. So our first stakeholder meeting was in November of 2024. So feels like a long time ago now, but we held a total of 5 stakeholder meetings over a 7-month period. So topics addressed in these meetings included developing a community profile, a hazard and risk assessment, and defining what a wild urban interface is. We also talked about mitigation and implementation strategies, and monitoring and evaluation of those projects. So overall, it was we had a great, like Stephanie said, a great turnout of stakeholders at every meeting, at least 15, 20. Yeah, I think that was about right. And in addition to the stakeholder meetings, we also had these community meetings. So the community meetings, we had 2, one in, what was Yelm? No.
We had one in
Little Rock. Little Rock, and then the other in Tenino. So the first meeting was focused on wildfire risk and protection goals. And the second meeting dove into the review of the CWPP draft. So we also collected data from 2 other events outside the community meetings. We had a wildfire movie screening. It was a screening of Elemental, Reimagine Wildfire. And we also attended the Southeast Thurston Wildfire Ready Neighbors launch in Yelm. And there we had the marble survey that Stephanie came up with. So it was a really simple way of gathering data on what was important to community members. All they had to do was, we had 3 jars, and I think we had 3 different priorities. And they dropped a marble into the jar that they thought was the highest priority. So that was a really simple way for people to engage. We also had long form paper surveys and digital copies of that survey that we distributed. Overall, we received over 100, I think it was like 106 in total surveys. So it was a great response. I was going to dive into the survey results a little bit, but I was looking at them and the CWPP, and there's so much in there, and I would encourage you to take a look at it. It's in the appendix. There's some interesting results, and it was kind of interesting that we had a large response from the Rochester area. It was like, I think at least 30 responses were from Rochester. So people in the Rochester area are very, concerned, I think, with wildfire and are ready to take some action. So that was really encouraging to see. All right, I'll pass it back over to you, Stephanie.
Yeah, and I mean, that doesn't surprise me, because that's those folks who came to that Little Rock Road meeting were largely from the Bordeaux community, and this wildfire is really fresh in their minds. You know, we talked to people who, one person lost their home, other people lost, sheds and other infrastructure, and it was really, I don't even, it's 5 years now, since it's happened, but it's like very still fresh in their minds, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, these projects are separated into low, medium, and high priority. And then the buckets, like Jay said, we did try and, we wanted to have options so people could weigh in really quickly if they only had 30 seconds to weigh in. But then if they wanted to get in more deeper with the survey, they could spend 5 or 10 minutes. But those big buckets for the Marble activity were, the voting on fire adapted communities, fuel reduction projects, and wildfire response. And that's also how the projects were categorized within the plan.
Mhm.
So there'll be, certain fire adapted communities projects, certain fuel reduction response. It's funny, when we did the wildfire ready neighbors launch, there were a lot of firefighters and their families and little kids, and the jar of wildfire response was full. Everybody voted. But then we did it at the wildfire, the elemental screening, and we
Yes.
got a lot of fire adapted communities votes, because that movie really focuses on the actions that you can take in your own home. So interesting to see that. Okay, next slide.
Okay.
And so this is the list. I think this is the updated list. We've had, these are like the core folks who came, consistently throughout the plan. We've gotten feedback from other people. We got feedback from like City of Tumwater planners. They're not technically within the region that we're serving, but they had some helpful feedback for us. It was a great group. We made a lot of really strong connections, especially with the fire districts. It is wonderful to work with our fire districts. They're just, I see us as being helpers and they're helpers. And when helpers and helpers come together, it's like this magic happens. We're just like both trying to outdo each other and nothing. It was really nice working with them. Economic Development Council, they had some great, Orca had really great suggestions and resources for us that we wouldn't normally have had. Working with emergency management was wonderful.
It was great to have Puget Sound Energy present
Yep.
too, because a lot of people had questions about the TSPS program that they're doing, the power shutoff program.
Yeah.
So it was great to have a representative kind of speak to that.
Yeah, they came to our community meetings. That was perfect timing. And then also I want to give a shout out to Paul Brewster from Thurston Regional Planning Council, who's been like a tremendous resource. He wrote the hazards mitigation plan, or led that process. And so he's had, he just has had, he's done it all. He's had the experience. And so when we had questions, we would ask him, what would you do in this situation? And he was really generous with his time. I think, is that it?
That is it, yes.
Okay.
I think we're
So-
at the questions.
Yeah, questions or comments, thoughts?
Questions?
I just want to say I had a wildfire ready neighbor assessment with Jay and Alex, and it was really amazing, and very, very, very thorough. She looked under my deck. Anyway, it was very thorough, and it gave me some things to work on. Anyway, it's a really good program.
Great.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Doug?
I'm very impressed with the engagement of the stakeholders and the communities. You guys have went way beyond the norm, and I think that's really great. Do have a couple of questions. I suggest talking with Brian Williams, who's the Cascadia Executive Director, who's got experience in this. Just when I'm sending the stuff, I would say, we're just about done, so don't screw it up.
Yeah.
I would make that point.
Yeah.
And the other is cross-boundary issues. I'm thinking the coordination with Lewis and Mason and, the adjacent, because the watersheds fires don't respect the boundaries.
And those fire districts, many of them have MOUs already in place with their neighboring districts,
Yeah.
and so they do have that infrastructure already in place. We specifically addressed that in this plan because we did have boundaries on where we were gonna focus. But yeah, that's a good idea.
Maybe just put a sentence in,
Yeah.
basically it's covered by the fire district.
Just to,
Yeah.
to point out that that does happen.
Good job, you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Anything else, Doug?
Yeah, just one comment. So at the Little Rock meeting, I know one of the things that came up from the community was folks talking about Scotch broom from a wildfire risk. So I was just at the weed board meeting the other night and shared that with them. And I think a lot of the times the focus is on Scotch broom as a nuisance. And people aren't necessarily thinking about it from a wildfire perspective, but there might be an opportunity there to work with those folks and that team.
Yeah.
When looking at, whatever we're looking at implementing, but thinking about the Scotch broom in particular as a wildfire risk, I think they would definitely be interested in coordinating or help somehow, right?
Yeah.
Participating in that.
That's funny that you say
That'd
that
be
because
cool.
I actually just had someone from the weed board contact me.
Oh, perfect.
And we
Great.
have a call tomorrow morning.
Fantastic.
So yeah,
Okay,
and
good.
it's about Scotch broom, so.
Okay, great. Good.
So that's perfect, yeah.
Okay, great.
There's some really neat ideas in the plan. You had mentioned like prescribed grazing as like a
Yeah.
potential for reducing some Scotch broom or other people's. There's a couple of prescribed burn associations that Sarah turned me onto actually. And looking at those, like that's or some, I don't know who was it from you too?
Oh, just it's the one in Cascadia, because Ryan and I
Oh.
talk a lot. I was just
Yeah,
Yeah.
what a cool idea. It's, they have the infrastructure set up so that all of the paperwork and the contracts are all set and it's their own, they just lead them prescribed burns on their own. So yeah, some neat ideas.
there are.
All right, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on that, and yeah, good work. I think we're all just like, this is what we do here. We go out and we bring people together and get stuff done, so thank you.
That part is easy.
Yeah.
People have been so grateful that TCD has stepped into this
Yeah.
space because it's been something a lot of people have wanted or been concerned about, but there hasn't been a convener, so
Yeah,
thank you guys.
thank you.
Thanks a lot.
That's for
All right, with that, let's move on to the next topic, which is a recap on Wade and the state leadership meeting.
Sure.
Sarah and Doug.
I didn't go to Wade. I had too many first.
Well, let's start with Wade and then we'll come to the second piece.
Wade was good. We had a large number of staff that was able to attend Wade. Especially we prioritize a lot of our newer staff coming to Wade and being able to integrate and meet people that do similar things in a different space than them and cross-pollinate and share ideas. It's always a time, this is our annual employee training that happens once a year in June in the middle of the state. We all descend upon the same town. And we have 3 days-ish, it's more like 2 over 3 days of all kinds of sharing ideas and getting training and being brought up to speed on all kinds of things. And it's all spread out by the different departments and topics that districts have. And so it's like, it is a routine, go to this training as many humans as possible kind of event for everybody in the state. Because we do the amount of information sharing that we can do in person verbally in a short period of time is incredible. And the amount of mentorship opportunities that happen, we always glean a whole list of different tools that districts are using that, gosh, we want that. That's how we got introduced to Smartsheet and our whole system and database is at Wade. So that went really well. I think generally also it's a great time for our staff that might be in different departments to connect with each other. Many of our staff were presenters as well as participants in this. So that was great. I did minimal speaking this time, but still was on a panel in 4 different sessions. It's okay. Minimal, just speaking, no presentation this time, which was really nice. I've facilitated a track before and it's a lot of work. So this time I did not. But yeah, I think it was really well received. I think it was really great. I think it was also really therapeutic with all of the federal and state budget things that are happening and being able to address that. We also get to connect with the WACD and the commission leadership and strategize and plan. And we made a lot of changes. We covered a lot of ground in that short period of time and helped with grant guidelines and new policy development and all kinds of stuff. So yeah,
Nice.
anything.
I do have a couple of Wade comments. So proud of these guys. This is the first one I've missed in a long time, and it's always so cool for supervisors to go. They're invited to go and eat dinner with these guys, for example.
It's very inspirational.
Just see them going around, and you get some strange sessions. The manager at the Spokane district gave one on board staff relationships, how to work together better. Well, we'll see, that was a while ago, but well. Supervisors are invited too, and I encourage attendance. And it's in Leavenworth, the Sleeping Lady. It's a wonderful venue.
And you are now a
Oh,
co-chair,
Yeah, a
With Craig. co-president, which is great and absolutely consistent with our
Yes.
professional development goals for you. But just to double check, this is something that's gonna work with your workload and other responsibilities. It sounds like based on what you wrote, that because you're sharing it with Craig, it will, but just wanted to check.
It matches multiple priorities of the board. One, to take statewide leadership, and two, I changed the bylaws for the association to split the workload in two.
Oh,
Right.
So now I get half the workload.
Okay.
To be really responsive to the amount of time that I'm spending here, and it won't always be quite a 50-50. I think Craig has a little more time to spend on some of the tasks or meetings associated, but we can still cross-pollinate. So yes, at this point, it's
Great.
gonna be really digestible. We've also realigned the responsibilities of the other officers and added some more positions to the board and then delegated all of that out. So we're restructuring the whole organization, but very little of that will land on me.
Great. All right, so that's Wade. So then the statewide leadership meeting that followed Wade.
So that one I did facilitate half of, which went really well. We did a collaborative session with WACD and the commission around roles and responsibilities as all of our entities have grown over the last, 80+ years. Naturally, we've all changed and become more sophisticated. Everything's become more complex, and how we play in a sandbox with each other has changed and evolved. And we want to make sure that we're all still on the same page, because we run into things a lot of times where like, gosh, you should be doing that. I can't do that, but that person can do that. And so this was a little bit more of like, we're going to come to center and have some conversations about what we think we do and what we think other people do. And so it's the beginning of a conversation to really refine that partnership with the people. I mean, we are three parts of the same puzzle that do this work hand in hand, and we can't do it without each other. There'll be a follow-up session at WACD that delves into the next chapter of that. But overall, it was really well received. We got a lot of great data. We had a lot of really great conversation. It's also helping, I think, inform some of the leadership turnover. We have new leadership in all of those spheres, every single one, at the supervisor or like governance level, as well as the leadership staff level. And so it's a really great time to have this exercise. We also did a little check-in on the statewide sustainable funding committee and do a little bit of data collection. We have been charged as a committee with pursuing, investigating, or exploring a statewide sales tax initiative. May or may not be the political climate for that in the future, we'll see, but we are exploring that model that they have successfully implemented in Missouri. There's also some land conversion fee mechanisms in another state that we are exploring. We brought a little bit of that information and sort of did a little data collection, audience temperature checking around that. Yet again, there's another model that's going to come forward. So right now we're still just sort of bringing some things to our general 45 district community and saying, how do you feel about this? What are your attitudes? What are your thoughts? What can you get behind or not to continue to refine the direction? So we have this charge to investigate the sales tax initiative. And then there's just been some new legislation around the nation, obviously, that's brought some innovative ideas in different ways. There's some sort of investment fund that's been created. I don't know, I got a little snippet about it this morning, so that's going to come up. So this is just another sort of check-in point to provide feedback in, and then there'll be more committee work and refinement, and there'll be another touch point with some interaction probably prior to and then at the annual meeting this year in December. Those were my pieces. There's a lot of other legislative stuff, but maybe you want to speak to those.
Add to that.
Yeah, but I would point out that 3 years ago, we had meetings in, I think it was September, which myself and a couple other people pointed out, that doesn't give us enough time to develop any legislative package for January. It just doesn't work. So last year we had one in Yakima, and it was just the commission and WACD. So I think it's a good thing to include the people that do the work on the ground, the staff level. So that's good. They did go over the budget. Danny Madrone who's the government relations person for The commission was supposed to send, all the EDs, supplemental budget stuff. Did she do that, Sarah? On the 17th, she was supposed to do that.
The survey?
It's information on the supplemental budget, what the guidance was from OFM.
I'll have to look and see what that
Anyway.
means.
So they talked about priorities and that. We talked about, you don't need to wait till the legislature's in session to talk to your representatives, and like we do, have them come on tours, go to them. Don't wait. Staff is okay to talk with. We had Representative Steele, who's from Leavenworth area. He talked about the 2.5 million in forest health that was given to the commission, when last year it was 25 million. So that's going to be quite an adjustment there. Bryn Beatty was the WACD lobbyist, whom we share with the commission quite a bit. Pointed out there's going to be a whole lot of new legislative leaders this session. And there's certain key ones, basically the Ag Natural Resources Committee, there's a new Natural Resources Caucus. So it'd be interesting to see exactly who comprises that. And WACD is going to start an outreach campaign with postcards, which I was less than enthusiastic about sending postcards, but that's just my opinion. And Sarah covered most all the rest really well.
Comments?
Again, I felt like standing up when she's done, going, she's from Thurston.
I know her.
Well, they come so far, a few years back, you ask yourself, why am I doing this? And why are we doing it?
Now we know.
It's bigger than us.
All right, thank you both.
So just one thing, when you're looking at like the different sales tax models and some of those other funding models, are you looking at the model that Oregon uses?
The lottery system?
No, it's a different thing. And I heard about it at the Partnerscapes meeting, and I literally remember zero details about it, besides thinking, that's really cool. We should try to do that in Washington. So it wasn't the lottery though. It
Okay.
was something else. And I'm sorry, I don't have any more specifics for you.
Would Jake know?
Maybe, or I can literally maybe just Google it and send
I'll
it to
track
you.
it
But
down and
if
see.
the Oregon model wasn't on your list, I just wanted to, it should be.
So we did review some existing models in several iterations of this committee over the last few years. The Oregon model, as we know it, is their lottery system that's divvied up and sent out to various conservation districts and other conservation
Okay, maybe
entities.
that is it. I didn't think it was lottery, but again, like.
Well, maybe
it was
there's a
months
new
ago,
one, so we can
and
definitely
looking at.
look,
it
yeah.
didn't stick in my brain, so.
If you need contact information, I know both of their Oregon Association and their state presidents, if I can give you those numbers.
Okay, I'll send it to our committee facilitator,
Okay.
who's the aggregator
Yeah.
of those pieces,
Yeah.
and have them do that checking.
Right.
Yeah, I could be wrong. It could be the lottery.
Or you could not be, and it could be new, and we could look at it.
Who knows?
Yes, we'll investigate.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to item 4. We got a memo from WACD about raising a new issue, supplemental dues investment, so.
So I wanted to add this onto the work session just because I'm not sure how far if this went to all of everyone's inboxes, which I imagine that it did.
I think we all got it.
I wanted to just explain a little bit about what was going on here. We have funding already in our approved budget every year to cover our base dues to WACD for all of the great services and work that they provide. They are developing this concept of supplemental dues, which might actually turn into more of a fee-for-service model that we can participate in. If we're looking for more advocacy around wildfire, because we're Cascadia CD and we have $5 million worth of projects, we can invest some money in them championing that piece to help add capacity at WACD and some of the needed resources that they do. So I wanted to just underscore that's sort of what the supplemental dues piece is. And that the fee for service model is also going to give us some funding flexibility to invest in some of these priorities potentially where we have restricted funding alignment. So that's just a really fancy way of saying some of our grants will pay for a marketing campaign around riparian outreach and to help us contribute to bolstering our advocacy organization and the marketing and the campaigns that they are doing at the state level, but in a direct fee for service way that our restricted funders will let us. So I plan to review that in depth and see where there's alignment and budget availability on the restricted side of our funding, because we don't have a lot of extra unrestricted funds. Those are pretty well set for the year. We are gonna, as we do every year in July, do a mid-year budget review and look at that. I'm not anticipating a lot of extra money for stuff like this. But we do want to try and support them where we can, where it's gonna make sense and where we have any funding availability in our restricted funding and eligibility. But I wanted to bring that up, explain what this was, and then if there's any of the, if you have any feedback or anything about the priorities that they've mentioned here, feel free to share that with me too.
So I guess the question I have is, we will have a mid-year budget review next month.
Mhm.
Is this extra something that we're thinking about then considering as part of the 2026, our 2026 budget? Or-
If the board would like to, my preference would be, unless there is a priority that's listed in here that we can't fund through grant dollars that the
Yeah.
board would like to invest in, that would be a 2026 consideration. If we can, I would like to just see if we have budget availability in the restricted grants that we can do now.
Okay,
So, cause a lot of them will have like outreach dollars and there's a line item and we can repackage that to invest in some of these pieces instead of printing more local flyers or whatever it is. We can make some of those micro decisions, so.
so that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I think we should look at it in both ways, like what
Okay.
can we do now with
Yeah.
existing restricted funding? And as we're putting together the 2026 budget, let's think about, are there additional things that we think would make sense that we want to fund through that process?
Excellent.
Yeah, my understanding is just slightly different. And that is that it was, if you have the money, this is a voluntary investment program.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the voluntary is important.
It is, and
People like Adams, they're not, Adams CD is not gonna be able to contribute.
well, and that's why I asked them to consider a fee for service model,
Mm.
because not a lot of districts have unrestricted dollars that they can pay additional supplemental dues. But they can include a fee for service line item in their restricted grant applications, so.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that would be great. We can bring this up as part of our 2026 budget development process too.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, item 5, farmland preservation
Uh-huh.
planning.
So, so I have some real concerns and so I want to share it. And it is not just the farmlands, it's our forests. So we have the looming UGA swap law. I don't know if you've heard of it. Anyway, and then the proposed cluster housing in rural Thurston. And then there's the lack of farmland preservation. So so community members, and you can call them activists or community members, they visited with Commissioner Menzer. He said that he's specifically worried about how long it takes before a landowner has a vote from the BOCC for a land use change that they've proposed. But the members said that the community is waiting just as long, if not longer, for the BOCC to act on community interest in preserving more farmland. So that was the discussion. Were you there?
No.
Okay. I don't think so. Anyway, what's going on now is that what they're hoping is that there's more program improvement that should be coming to the BOCC at the end of the year from what's called the Working Lands Conservation Strategy, and that is a grant-funded program. So in November, they will have a meeting and hopefully we'll have meaningful program change that with recommendations from the consultants. And I suggest that the TCD board gets a report for our December meeting from their November, from what they've come up with in November, at least from that strategy. And then the UGA swap. So So it is with Commerce right now, and they like the idea of this swap. The thing is, there's enough land within the UGA. This swap was really meant for areas that have already filled their urban growth area, and they need to push out into the outside the UGA. But anyway, they're doing it anyway. They're looking at it in Thurston, and they feel that the UGA has mistakes in it and that the swap can fix. Activists feel that it's the mistake idea was really a selling point by developers. I believe in economic development, but I don't think we need to be smart. And anyway, it's very confusing. There's a lot of legality to it. I'm not a lawyer, but I will tell you it is very concerning. It seems right now to be open to interpretation. So the cluster housing, that issue, I have asked the planning commission to take cluster housing off the comp plan because, and this is just me as a citizen, and move it to a docket item because it needs analysis and it needs community input. Because they're just going at it willy-nilly and they need some real structure to it, some real analysis. That is it in a nutshell. But all of it does affect our forests and our farmlands and our rural areas that are, so I guess my question is this in our wheelhouse? Do we take any action or just stay informed? And the one action I do recommend, though, is getting a report for the December meeting from the Working Lands Group.
Yeah, that makes.
And I can request that. Okay.
And I'm glad you brought this up. I was actually gonna bring this up under supervisor updates.
Okay,
Because if you read the Office of Farmland Preservation thing recently, the first item that they had in there was the good news from Skagit County, that Skagit County preserved 460 acres of farmland
yes.
last year. Thurston County proved 0. So why is it that they have this aggressive program and they're able to preserve 460 acres? And what we did here through the community driven review of agriculture over the last few years is change definitions so that we didn't have to actually do anything.
Mhm.
That's my take on it. So my primary focus moving into our strategic plan and thinking about the future is we need to be far more aggressive as an organization in either, or maybe both, pushing the commissioners on farmland preservation, or maybe doing it ourselves and taking it in-house and developing some programs and seeking some funding to do it, because the status quo isn't working. We're losing land faster than any other county on the I-5 corridor. And then you look at places like Skagit, they're saving it.
Well, and the thing is, he's right, and I'm with you at 100%. We need to do something. We can't just talk about it.
Yeah.
But and so the thing is with developers, and I don't, again, I believe in economic development if it's smart, but their impact fees and their regs are far less in rural.
Yeah.
So they want to push out. They are very tight with, I mean, they're tight with the
Well,
county.
that's what the developers want to do. The role of government is to curtail the excesses of private enterprise
Absolutely.
in some cases. And that's what we're dealing with here is we have some counties that are curtailing the excess of private enterprise like Skagit, and we have others that are opening the floodgates like Thurston. So as we move into our strategic planning and setting our goals for the future, that's where I'm coming from on this. This is going to be my highest priority, and I'm going to push
I agree.
this organization and the county to do a whole lot more than we've ever done before.
Yeah.
So,
TJ, in your mind, you mentioned bring that in-house and potentially develop some programs. Are you thinking as far as like, can you tell me more about what you're thinking? I know we'll have a strategic planning process.
I don't know for sure, but
Yeah.
maybe directly purchasing easements, or directly purchasing land and leasing it to farmers. I mean, there's a lot of different
Yeah.
things around the country that people are doing that are making a difference that we're not doing right here.
Yeah, and we should discuss it.
So
We're gonna be in
yeah.
5 years and 10 years
Yeah.
and
Right.
20 years.
And if
Exactly.
we wait for somebody else to do it.
Yeah, and so I don't have a preconceived notion of we should do this or we shouldn't do this,
Yeah.
but I think we need to spend some time thinking about how we change the conversation, how we change the reality on the ground, because what we've been doing for a long time just isn't
Don't
working.
worry.
It's not working.
We have spent, and I myself have spent considerable amount of time and resources trying to tackle this issue with all of our community partners over the last couple of years, and there's some broken pieces to that puzzle. And I think there is also opportunity for TCD to have a greater role in that sphere if we have that direction to do that. So
Yeah.
I'm excited, and that was enough information that I can bring some of those resources back to the board during the strategic planning process.
I'm thinking based on the presentation we heard from Stephanie and Jay, that maybe we should turn them loose on this for the community engagement part. That was really good. But yeah.
Yeah.
I'd agree, because it's not working.
It's not working. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll move on to, yeah, we're doing okay on time. Item 6 here is, intro to cost share rate and labor rate resolutions, which we need to adopt, I believe, next month.
Yeah, and I just wanted to intro this concept for folks because we only do this once at the beginning of every biennium and then we don't do it again. As part of our State Conservation Commission funded cost share, which is a very small subset of even the project work funding that we get from the commission itself. We have a cost share rate where we share the cost of the practices with landowners that are implementing. They have a whole different subsection, and the majority of their grant programs now are all district implemented. They are not cost share opportunities where the landowner or the community member has a certain amount of control over navigating and developing the project, and then they share some of the burden of the funding. Our current cost share rate is 90-10 for most all projects. And so that's really what we're gonna want to look at setting. And you'll get more information about this in your packet. You'll get your draft resolution. You'll get all of that. We'll be able to talk about it in the July work session as well. But I just wanted to enter this as a concept now. Obviously we can't go over 100% cost share. There's all of those great clauses in there. But that's been a conversation that we've had in the past. It's been a rate that we have increased over time. Basically just to meet the demands of trying to get natural resource conservation on the ground. It's been economic barriers are pretty huge, especially with generational transfer of property, and the decentralized wealth of the next generation. It's just, those have been huge barriers. And so 90-10 means the district pays for 90% of a practice, a waste storage structure, a fence, whatever it is, and the landowner pays 10%. I will say with a gigantic caveat, the amount of our project implementation dollars that are true cost share is small and it's waning because people do not have time, resources, expertise, interest in being heavily involved in the practice implementation themselves. The majority of the conservation work that we do is all district implemented. So it's 100% paid for. And the district remains in the driver's seat 100% and has control over the design, the permitting, the documentation, the implementation, which has a lot of advantages for the district and is really streamlined. So we're talking about a very small percentage, but that's a decision that the board will need to make. We'll need to update and readopt this resolution and send that in to the State Conservation Commission. Are there any questions about that piece?
I had a question that I was sort of indirect, I guess, but I was thinking as I was working with NRCS on my CSP grant. So if a landowner is getting like a CSP or an EQIP grant or something from NRCS, can they also use district money to help that same project move forward?
Absolutely. We do it all the time because NRCS rates are set nationally. They're inevitably always usually too low. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they're over. Most of the time they're not. And so we couple money all the time.
Okay,
with
that's what I
NRCS.
thought, but I never had asked the question before.
Yep.
So thank you.
Yes, it's a great partnership.
Yep.
And a good question to have on record too. So the other flip side of that piece is the cooperator labor rate resolution. Again, these are from a past era when cost share was the king, right? Or the queen. And now we're moving really into, we do much larger, higher volume, more complex projects that the district administers. So with that, some of the contribution of that 10% that a landowner contributes to make up their piece of the cost share can be through labor, can be through in-kind labor, and we value that at a specific rate that the board sets. Typically, we choose whatever the state's volunteer labor rate is that other agencies have set, and that's what we use. So, that will be an element where we look, double check, propose that. But if the board feels otherwise, obviously that's up to the board. But that is the methodology that we've used in the past for determining what that rate is. And so it can be pulling ivy on a site to help clear it, or it can be operating equipment and excavating. I mean, but that's sort of the rate that has been assigned. So those are two resolutions, and we have to adopt those and send those in to get our money from the commission this by.
So my suggestion on that is that we put those on our work session next month. And then assuming we work everything out there, just put it on the consent agenda for adoption later that evening.
Perfect. Great plan.
Okay. All right. Doing good on time. Strategic planning process.
Yeah. I'm getting really excited about closing out this fiscal year and this biennium, and then being able to really invest brain space and looking at the future. At our last meeting, we sort of set some placeholder dates on our calendar. I kind of wanted to run through a preliminary timeline of events with you guys tonight, sort of walk you through some of my thought process behind how we meet and have conversation, your opportunities to review different pieces where we might have some community engagement at a really high level. And then we'll start delving into that a whole lot more next month. And also some of the kind of like new perspectives that we're hoping to bring into the plan. So let me close all of these items I have open. And Sophia, I'm going to share my screen. I think I can just bump you out of there.
Yeah, you can.
Well, you're not sharing on Zoom anyway. Let's see. Does it pop up? You might need to open, that window up on the right. Not that one, the Zoom window. If you just want to maximize the Zoom window. Yeah. Bottom right hand or perfect. Yes, a thing I learned at Wade. Somebody helped me turn my computer in dark mode. That was really wonderful. Which is nice in the eyes. So hopefully though, you can see this. We're gonna make it really big because we're sharing our screen with our lovely faces there. So this is just a draft outline of some of the activities involved in our strategic planning process. And then what I'm really excited to share with you is next month when we get into some of the components of the strategic plan. I'll send this out so you don't have to digest it too much in depth now, unless you'd like to. What I'm hoping, again, this is our July board meeting date. Here is that we will really delve into these pieces, go through the materials, go through some more of the objectives, go through some of the visioning exercises. The board will have an opportunity to weigh in on, yes, I like that. No, I don't. Let's add this. Have you thought about X? At this date, we have two kind of big community event touch points where we can do data collection. So at some of our past meetings this year, we've talked about having these big high profile surveys, like really at the 30,000 foot level. What are your community priorities? Help inform our strategic planning process. So these dates here are the Thurston County Fair. We've talked with staff about having like some QR codes, some flyers that can inform, again, a 3-question, really high profile, just share some big bucket priority information with us around the work that the district does. So we don't want to get into a granular level of detail yet, but we just want some big guiding principles. This is the date we saved on our calendar as our first strategic planning session. I am proposing that this is the board and myself, that I participate in this session with you guys rather than facilitate this session. That's a new idea. Because I think that we see two sides of governance of the organization, and I want to be able to support the board with that perspective. And then Nora will facilitate this. So we are facilitating twins, and so Nora will help facilitate here. And we will look at the big items, the vision, what you guys just said in the last item or the farmland preservation item. What do we envision for Thurston County in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? Like, what are the big things that we want to see? How do we want to transform Thurston County? And that we start tackling that really big vision piece, and then our role and our mission within that.
460 acres like Skagit does.
No more, we gotta beat Skagit.
There we go, the great race. And then, so our second session is the 18th, and at this point, I would like to keep that a little more focused, and invite our director level of staff and the board together to have some conversation to start unpacking under that vision and that mission some of the strategic priorities around there. Give our directors an opportunity to hear authentically from the board, what are those resource priorities that you're bringing from the community? And then how might that match up with other community trends, feedback, things that we're hearing on the ground? How can that inform the way that the board thinks about and makes decisions around this, that we have that as a smaller group? Because we are large now, we have a lot of staff. And it's not as effective to do that with everybody, but we can do that with the leads of these departments that represent those teams. And then based on that, we have an opportunity to review that big bucket community feedback at our August board meeting, any other progress updates. We have the staff will start working on generating the draft plan language here through the end of August and into September. The board will have an opportunity to review what we've put together in terms of the draft and really start to have something to react to make revisions or say, hey, we want to add this section, we want to change these things. In September, again, this is sort of the big bucket outlining piece. We will meet, up here is where we'll meet also as a full staff. And we will work through the direction that's been given from the board around the resource priorities and start to put the how piece to that so that you can see some of that and react to that here in September. That'll be a touch point again for the board to provide revision and guidance. We have this Harvest Festival. There'll be a window. I put October 4th because that's a Harvest Festival date, but really we'll probably have a window of time, multiple days open, to do some more community data collection on any of the elements that we've identified we'd like to drill down or get some more information from. And then we will be able to bring that back to the board on the 28th, along with a refined draft plan based on any of the feedback you've provided in September, with the goal that we could probably adopt it as early as the November board meeting. It could be pushed later if the board feels like you'd like a little bit more time or another month, but this is sort of like a really high level. We have community touch point and partner touch point opportunities. We've got board, we've got staff, we've got collaboration between us, a bit of a roadmap, and then just some of the new perspectives that we're hoping to bring in, and then I'm done with this piece. Is we want to focus on larger strategic goals. So I could pull up our 47-page strategic plan, whatever it is now, that drills down into a very micro level of detail that constantly changes, that has metrics that are untrackable, and that we have augmented in each annual plan every year that we've had our strategic plan. So we want to pull up a level. That's the intent this time, is going into that. Is we want to have big, trackable, meaningful metrics that say, this is what we're doing in the community. Did we write 20 individual stewardship plans? That doesn't mean anything to our community, right?
Mm-hmm.
But did we conserve 495 acres of farmland in this period? Or did we treat 1,000 acres of invasive species or plant 5 miles of stream? Those are the metrics that mean something, and that's not what's in our strategic plan currently. So we want to do that transition, and we want to choose fewer things to track that have a bigger impact, so that we're not spending all of our time
Right. Yeah, yeah,
county widgets, but we're doing work and then we're rolling them up into these big pieces.
yeah.
We wanna look longer, create bigger, longer vision, because our historic strategic plans have been 5 years. And we're trying to build a conservation education center. And so we wanna say, when is that gonna be done? What's that gonna look like? What are those goals? And create some far out benchmarks that can be these big guiding principles. And then obviously drill in with a lot more detail as we're getting to that 5 year mark. But what do we wanna do in 10 or 20? Or what do we want our community to look like? And we should acknowledge that so people can see where we're going long term. And then obviously make sure that this process remains efficient and that our plan is providing good direction and is illustrative of the work that we do. And so we learned a lot last time, and those are some of the things moving forward. So that's sort of the lay of the land entering into strategic planning. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts, or feedback on that?
Yeah, one.
Yeah.
Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay,
You're the chair, go first.
so one thing did make sense to me.
Yeah.
Which is we're setting our priorities before we reviewed community feedback.
The second time.
Did I miss something there?
We have this.
August
community-
18th, we're setting priorities, but will we have already reviewed the community feedback?
Yeah, I just didn't, I put it down here just because I didn't know if you wanted to bring it into a public meeting, because that's what we've done in the past, is we brought like a showcase of that community feedback into a public meeting. But we'll have our collection done.
Okay,
August
so
3rd.
we will have the benefit of that information before we set the priorities.
Yeah,
Okay, that was
Yeah.
my question.
and I can reword that so that
Okay.
that doesn't.
This wasn't clear to me. Okay, good.
Two observations. One is this will provide good feedback to the legislature on what CDs can do. And to the county commissioners, which we don't need to worry about that for another 9 years. But for me,
Well.
Well, we
Yeah,
can ask
yeah.
for more money now.
being on WACD and NACD, this sets an example and a higher bar than most districts do around the country. And I think other folks will learn from this, that here's a good way to do it, a better way to do it, an effective way to do it.
Yay.
Good.
Nice.
I'm hopeful, and I will say that I have communicated with WACD and a lot of other districts that have gone through strategic planning and gleaned lots of bits that I've liked and that I'm like, this is the grand vision that we're looking for, so. And we love to share too, so we'll share ours outward.
All right. Okay, thank you. Long-term funding committee, I think maybe you'll add to this, Sarah, but
Yeah.
I think the main point I wanted to bring out here is based on our last conversation, we decided to be a little bit more fluid about the timeline.
Yeah.
And to push it out a little bit further, so we're not gonna meet again until I think early August, if I'm correct, something like that. Which made sense to me, given kind of the conversations we've had and where the priorities were shaking out. It was like, let's do it right versus just sticking with this arbitrary, let's get it done by July timeline. So I think I felt pretty good about our last discussion. And I think staff has a bunch of pretty clear direction at this point to be working on to bring back to the committee at the next go round. Yeah.
Yep, we are continuing to do a lot of the analyses that we talked about there, bring that to some of our directors, ground truth some of that work. It's gonna be a really nice time too, when we do our mid-year budget review, and also as we start to address some of the strategic planning priorities and have those conversations with the board. I think it's just gonna sync up really nicely, so. Yeah.
Yep.
Got it.
So we'll likely have some in-depth discussion on this topic by our August meeting.
Yep.
All right. Okay, with that, on to our last topic here, which is updates and announcements. We'll start with the board. Do you have anything? Doug?
I've been reappointed to the NACD Forestry Committee.
Congratulations.
But your term's up at the end of the year? is that
No, that's
right?
WACD.
Oh, WACD, right. I
Get
get
it right.
confused.
The last administration, which was a 2-year thing, I was on the board for 16 years before that. So the guy that's in chair of it used to be on the committee, so I knows that I push stuff and I actually do things. One of the strange things though is, the current administration was talking about cutting a whole bunch of stuff in the Forest Service, including state and private forestry, which funds NACD's forestry committee. So I don't know. I'd ask for this board's support depending on what happens, I have no idea. They're talking about just Zoom meetings. I don't like Zoom meetings when it's compared to in-person meetings, because I think you miss too much. So, but I don't know exactly what that means, if anything. I may just stick to Zoom.
Thank you. David?
Nothing for me.
I'll bring up something in executive session, some conversations I've been having related to CEC stuff. And the only thing I wanted to add here was the Washington Policy Institute report on elections, I believe is due to the legislature July 1st. So as soon as you see that come around, please get that out to all of us, as we have a vested interest. And I'd like to put some time on our July agenda to just talk about that and whatever the Policy Institute has come up with. They're not making recommendations to the legislature. They were very clear about that, but they're doing analysis of options and costs and benefits of various options for elections.
One of the things that came up in the WACD meeting was apparently they're asking questions now that they should have asked like a year ago, or, you know, should have been done by now. So what gives me pause on how good the quality may be.
I feel kind of differently on that. I feel like they've done a tremendous amount of outreach to supervisors and districts going back last winter. So I'm optimistic that we will have a robust report that will look at this situation from lots of different angles, and then it'll be up to us to think about which of those make sense and begin to put that into our advocacy with our legislators,
Nice.
anticipating there's going to be some bills introduced next session.
Yeah.
So that's all I have. You get the last word, Sarah, Executive Director.
Did you have a follow?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
we need to start thinking about resolutions for WACD, and I've got one that you'll like.
I don't know. I don't like resolutions. You know that.
A resolution.
Not when we have 65 of them that we haven't done anything with.
A resolution on cleaning up old resolutions. And then
I like that.
limiting, the focus, but 3 or 4 highest priority.
Maybe put a sunset clause on resolutions.
Well,
If you don't do anything in 2 years, it's gone. Anyway, good. Thank you.
So that was one of the things on my list, is that resolution season is coming up again this summer for the first stop of that road, which is the Southwest Area Meeting. Just as a spoiler alert, I know that WACD is also working on a resolutions prioritization and like capacity framework to help run things through, and I think address a lot of the things that you just said. I'll try and get an update on that can inform any cleanup resolution that the board might want to put together. The Southwest Area Meeting is usually in the first couple of weeks of October. I think Wakayakum is hosting for the Southwest. 10th, perfect. It might even be on your schedule.
16th. Thank you. According to this.
So that's a long ways out, but start thinking about those processes. Another process that we conduct over the summer in prep for an October meeting is our community awards process. So we typically get 2 board member representatives, 2 staff member representatives, and then we facilitate our community awards program. There'll be an email that goes out to supervisors and staff that talks about the categories of those awards, that has the questionnaire with the contact information to provide the nominations. Any of the board and staff can nominate folks for any of those categories. The time commitment is your time to review the nominations, of which we don't get a huge overwhelming volume. And then an hour or less in a meeting to discuss those resolutions. So 2-ish hours in total is the commitment. And we don't need you to sign up yet, but if you know you want to participate, we can tick that box off now. So, feel free to tell me if you want to be on that committee. But that email will be coming out right about the 1st of July to say, hey, start thinking about putting those names in the hopper. We're going to want to meet in August, because then we want to make our selections and get our awards put together for our October 4th Harvest Festival. And the last thing is, I think we have just done a really good job, communicating with and stay and providing content and information both ways with a lot of our electeds and particularly our congressional elected offices. They're now seeing TCD as a resource of information if they have questions. And that I really love. Like, you have a question about a thing, they're going to come and ask. And so you saw one of those opportunities featured in my executive director's report with a lovely picture of Jennifer and Congresswoman Strickland on her ranch talking about some of these issues. And we're talking about things that affect us, like the AmeriCorps program and some of the issues that has seen. So I just wanted to say, like, as a pulse check overall, I think we've done an excellent job over the last year, board and staff, and really strengthening those relationships with our local Congress members and their staff. And we're really recognized as a support system for them. And they've been a good support system for us when we've provided them with, hey, these farm bill needs or these programs, or do you have more information about? And they're following up and providing us with that. So anyway, I just wanted, that was a nice little highlight, I think.
And also just my landowner hat on, what I appreciate from that perspective is that when we have visits like that and we have folks coming out, is I can come to the TCD and say, okay, what are our talking points? What are our messages? What are the current issues? Does this person care about? So we can help focus that messaging and focus those conversations. So it's a great resource for us landowners when we're doing those kinds of visits to make sure that we're hitting the right talking points that we should be. So I'm just really grateful for you guys as a resource from that perspective as well.
That's the service you need to tout over it.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we host a fair number of visits at the ranch and, you know, it's like, I always want to make sure we're making the best use of everybody's time, but I'm talking about the things that are specific to that group that's out, right? And so being able to just say, hey, Sarah, what are the three things? Like, what am I gonna cover? What are you gonna cover? What does this person care about?
Yeah.
Right? It's really, really helpful.
All right, and with that positive note, we will end the work session 6:06, 6:07. All right, welcome back to the June 25th, 2025 board meeting, Thurston Conservation District Board of Supervisors. Hello, everyone. We have an agenda before us here. There's one change to the agenda, which is we're going to shorten the executive session by 5 minutes. It will be a 15-minute executive session rather than 20 minutes. And so with that change, are there any other changes to the agenda? If not, I'll need a motion.
I move to approve the agenda. That's it.
Okay. Okay, moved by Mary Ann, seconded by Doug. We're gonna change our voting process here. I feel like we started the roll call vote during COVID just so people could track who was talking, but we don't really need to do that anymore. So we'll just do things without calling out people's names if that's okay. So all those in favor of the amended agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. Okay, so the agenda is passed. Consent agenda. Tonight we have 3 items on consent. 2 that we always have, which is our last meeting minutes and the most recent monthly financial report. And then we also have something we do once a year here, which is the State Conservation Commission Master Agreement. So those are our 3 consent agenda items tonight. So we'll need a motion on consent.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, moved by
second it.
David, seconded by Mary Ann. The vote on consent. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is approved. Item 4, public comment. This is the point at which any member of the public can address the board for up to 3 minutes on something that might be on their mind that would also be of interest or relevant to the district. I don't believe we have anyone in the public here tonight, but I will ask, is there anyone that wishes to make public comment? Hearing and seeing none, we will close public comment without comment. Item 5, partner reports. We do not have NRCS with us this evening. So no NRCS report. Josh sent a message out earlier in the week indicating he wouldn't be here, but he did identify a couple different things from the commission to put on our radar. Did just you and I get that message, Sarah? I think we did.
I think maybe it is just the two of us.
Could you
Yeah.
just email it to the rest of the board so you can see what Josh had to say? It's nothing significant really, but a couple of little updates and announcements from him.
Okay.
Okay, then that moves us to the tag team C and D here, Doug, WACD and ACD.
Okay, NACD, I'd like to do first, Mr. Chair.
That's fine.
Things are all screwed up in Washington and it's filtering down and nobody really knows what's going on. That's my read on what's going on.
That's any person's read who's paying attention.
One would hope. Anyway, WACD at a meeting on June 16th. Treasurer's report was there's 2.4 million on hand, which is up 350,000. So that's a good thing. WACD is gonna go into the local government investment pool. The interest rate was 4.6 as opposed to the current 1.7, so that's a no-brainer. An interesting thing at the Plant Materials Center, driving out to the meeting, I noticed one early morning that there were like 100 people picking strawberries there, and I thought, I hope ICE doesn't show up. But PNC is gonna have a presentation plan for staff for ICE and legal services that they can offer, so I think that's a good thing. Legislative, 4 priorities, CTA, forest health, elections and engineering, no surprises there. And I've got a copy of the budget that was passed, if someone wants to look at it. We gave a 2.6 COLA to staff. And we also passed a month leave for Tom Salzer that he wasn't expecting. It's not on the books yet, but I thought that was a good conciliatory supportive measure to help him with his wife and they're going all kinds of therapy stuff. And then I mentioned the resolution I thought of while we're talking about resolutions there. I thought, I don't like this process. I've been involved in it a lot. We need to fix it. And let's see. Sarah, you can add to the strategic planning part, but I'm going to say too, if you would. We talked about ways to improve WACD staff and supervisor training, clearing up updated governance documents, timely and clear communication. I missed the meeting, my first meeting. I think I missed WACD because I got the notice at 3:47 the night before. I don't check emails at night. Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of ways to improve that were mentioned. What we do well, aspirational, meet the needs of the clients, good partner relations, conservation on the ground, recognize the goals of the clients, community leaderships for districts, PMC, Plant Materials Center. Some overarching strategies and themes and goals, provide advocacy and support member CDs so their collective voices amplified and heard. Sub goal, 100% legislators contacted. I think we do just a really good job on doing that. Other districts have commented on Sarah and I working together to do that. And the Pierce guys were kind of embarrassed because we did so well, I thought. Anyway, and then leadership development and succession planning, and a sub goal there of provide recruitment and effective leadership. And that's all I have. Not upward. So you were in the strategic planning part.
Yeah, in addition to being part of the strategic planning, being a president of Void means you're a voting member on the WACD board now. So that's something that Craig and I will alternate as voting members there. So that's a really great opportunity to have some opportunity to share emergent needs from the east and west sides of the state with the WACD board and participate in that. Yeah, the strategic planning session went well. We really scratched the surface of some of the big bucket ideas and themes that people wanted to see around the state. And then the board's going to take that and really further refine and flesh out the next levels of goals for that piece. So, yeah, I think it was a really great meeting, and we've gotten since a lot of great feedback, either verbally or through email, about our district's participation in that meeting in that process from other corners of the state, so I think it was a valuable use of our time.
Yeah, this is a different process too. What the way it's been done before. Well, we didn't have a Wade member till 2 years ago, so we voted on, maybe employees could have a voice here too. And I said, well, maybe WACD should have a voice on the Wade board. Anyway, but the way, this is the old strategic plan. The way it was done, the staff developed it, and then we basically commented on it. This is going the other way, having everybody comment and then write the plan.
Yeah.
Which I think is more effective and you get more ideas. And as I said, I've got the budget here too, if anyone wants to look at it.
Okay.
It's no big surprises. Well, uncertainty, with the federal funding and all that.
Just one question, how many staff is it?
Well, we've got 3 in the executive part, and it varies because the plant material center high seasonal people, but most
Okay.
yours.
I guess just the executive part, there's 3.
Yeah, there's 3, there's 5. I think the plant material center, they are permanents, and it really varies, they have up to like 25.
Okay,
There's
good.
planning and part of it's.
The 3 executives, are they all full-time?
Yes. Yeah. Well, Tom is up basically on leave now.
Yeah, but normally he was, and I wasn't sure about Heather mostly, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you want, Tom sent me a picture of Jan, his wife. I sent him some comments, she's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Oh.
Looks like she's recovering and
Yeah.
looks kind of
Takes time.
sad.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. That moves us to governance. One item under governance tonight, which is to take a look at next month.
Will you open the one in the Teams folder for the July meeting? Cause I've started to update it with the feedback from the work session, or I can just share it out.
Yeah,
That just
I
makes
don't know
so
where
much more
that
sense.
folder is.
Let me just do that. You're gonna have to stop sharing your screen. There we go. Okay, so I've started to, I don't know that I've captured everything yet, but here's the July meeting. I've added the study. I started to add the resolutions. I'll add that below on consent. Of course, I'll comb through the notes I took during the work session and make sure that we have all of it. So we'll add those resolutions here. Oops.
You put WSCC resolutions on consent?
Those are the cost share and the labor rate. That's
Okay.
my shorthand to remind me to.
Okay, so I was thinking of WACD resolutions.
Yeah,
Okay,
no.
good. Okay.
The other thing that I've added to, that I don't have the RSW handy for is a placeholder for potential litigation. The board will get an email about what that's referring to in your inbox. It's a placeholder, so it's just a maybe. I don't think that it's anything at this point that's
Good.
of extreme significance, but just an FYI and then a placeholder for potential.
And maybe just because you scrolled through and I wasn't
Quickly.
tracking it, the mid-year budget review is work session or board meeting?
Yeah, it is a work session item that's typically where we've
Yeah,
done it.
okay.
So,
That's good. All right. Seems like a good starting point for next month.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll go with that for now, subject to further modification. That then moves us to the executive session. We're gonna have an executive session to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate. This is permitted under RCW 4230-110, subsection 1B. This executive session will be 15 minutes long. It will include all the board members, executive director, and legal counsel. We will discuss and potentially provide direction. We will take no formal action in the executive session because we can't. And at the end of that executive session, we will come back out into public session with the report out. And then after that, we will adjourn our meeting. So it is now 6:42 p.m., let's say 6:43 p.m. And so we will be back in 15 minutes, which is 6:58. PM.
Just thank you.
You wanna open the door and get Sophia back in here?
It's time for another one of these.
Oh, stop.
Okay, we are back in, from executive session into public session. We had a discussion about potential acquisition of real estate. We provided direction, general direction to our staff, and we'll continue these discussions into the future. With that, we've come to the end of our agenda here this evening. So the last thing is we need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Marianne, seconded by David. All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye. We're done, 6:58 PM.